Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. So in today's video I want to talk about the Glorious Game Showcase, and I certainly do have some feedback to give now that I have done all of it, some parts of it more than once just because I wanted to record some fights, and obviously also partially because this time around we do have a new addition, the science and tech parts of AW Showcase. So first I'm gonna talk about the old portion of it, the 2 lanes and everything connected to it. So taking a look at the rewards, let's face it, rewards have never been like the greatest in AW Showcase, and they do not necessarily scream amazing now to me either. Now it's always nice to get like extra 10 6 stones, a rank 2 gem, some titan shards, but you know, you do have a sense of, I don't know, incompleteness in these rewards because you know, you can't open anything really with this. You know, you do get the 7 tokens, but that's 7,000 7-star shards. Not enough for a crystal if you weren't already halfway onto one. Not enough, obviously, for a Titan crystal. There's just, you know, it doesn't feel great in terms of rewards, but they, you know, never have really. It's more so about the quest itself. And looking at the quest, I'll be honest, I actually enjoyed it. I don't think it's badly made. I think it, you know, reflected quite well on the experience of some of these AW fights. It didn't feel like it's a completely different experience from having done these fights in AW. It actually felt more similar to it. It is doable, perfectly itemless for sure, or with the cost of a few revives, if and when you know what to do. And if you are an experienced AW player, you can surely get through this relatively well. If you're not, you know, I do highly recommend looking up some guides and ask for advice, because in setup like this, knowledge is kind of everything. Because the matchups are very specific in order to be able to do well. Like, you know, the dust, a lot of people is going to struggle, even though you can do it with fairly big variety of RPG counters. But if you don't know exactly how to do the fight or which matchups would work best, you know, I do suspect that you'd get very frustrated and clapped by dust hard. Similar, for instance, to that North Star. But North Star just gonna start special spamming. You know, you're gonna hate this game if you do not know what to expect. Similar to Bullseye as well. So there are tricky fights where, again, knowledge is power. And there are kind of more skill-intensive fights as well. And overall, I was quite happy with difficulty. Didn't feel like it's, you know, a BS and Kabam's trying to milk us. Nor it felt like it's super easy and we just didn't breeze through it without, you know, considerable amount of knowledge and or skill. So, this part I did like. I do think the rewards should be looked at this point though. Now, we however need to look at the science and tech parts. I'm gonna kind of talk about them together, but you know, they are slightly different, I guess I'd say. For most part, it's not great. Let's face it. As a new addition, obviously there's some room for error, but I would say that this quest did not land in kind of like really satisfying manner. And it's not about, you know, necessarily Enchantress specifically, or them having like massive health pools like 4 million and whatnot. This quest could be received much better if one of 3 things would happen. Because currently, either, number 1, the rewards are too small for the amount of time required to go through this. So, if the rewards were better, having to spend like an hour doing each of these quests would feel better. You know, it wouldn't feel like such a waste. If Kabam does not want to increase the reward budget, which is also plausible, and I don't think that, you know, they should be giving us more out with these showcases, then they need to make it shorter. Either by making the fight shorter, not necessarily the health pool, the node should scale up faster than where, you know, now every fight takes just about, you know, 3 to 5 minutes basically, if not more than that. And you know, it is quite a long time. You can do abyss fights in those times, and you know, many champions do. or there should be just less of them. Now, I personally think that any one of those solutions would, or any one of those suggestions would make it, immediately player friendly. Now, I don't mind a lot of fights, but when it's in combination with these fights being very, very long, again, it creates, well, quite a big commitment requirement where you do need to play borderline flawlessly, or very well at the very least, well enough not to get KO'd. And then you have to do that for an extended period of time. So Kabam kind of needs to figure out what they're going for here. If they want us to tackle fights that are in the millions of HP with like specific champions, that's fine. Either give better rewards for it or make less of them. If Kabam primarily wants us to use, the specific class champions more in different matchups to kind of like learn those matchups extensively, that's fine. Just make the rewards better. So it's kind of an either or type thing. Because currently, from what I know already, for a fact, a ton of people, either will not be doing this at all, or they will be putting it off to the end of the month when there's very little else to do in the game. Because again, spending an hour for a 4 to 5 rank up gem for kind of like bigger, more established Valiants, that's hardly justifiable. The 10/7s or 6/7s are always nice, but again, there will be a portion of the players for sure who do not attempt this content. Not because they can't, not because they wouldn't qualify, or not because they're not skilled enough, but because, again, it is, 2 hours plus of playing quite actively. And, 4 to 5 gems, I like them, because I still, use quite a lot of Ascended 6 stars, even though that is going to go away soon. And obviously the 7 stars, 6 stones are always a welcome addition. So again, I find these things useful, but underwhelming for sure. One thing that I noticed within the fights themselves, there's basically this like one node where, you get your damage completely cut off for the first 2 minutes basically, and then you nuke the fight down. So you basically spend 2 minutes doing about nothing. It's like, why is that? If there was just like, some sort of gradual damage increase later on, and then you could still try to rush through it, it's fine, but the first 2 minutes is just quite miserable. Additionally, I do kind of like how they did it, where, going through these phases, you actually do get your health increase by 100%. You get your health fully restored during the fight, thus kind of like saving on items that you would occur by, chip damage or covering for small mistakes. That felt great. Throughout the fight, you were kind of like, ooh, I healed up. So, I don't need to be perfect for the remainder of the fight, and obviously you can be fresh moving into the next fight. The mastery is there. I think that was perfectly fine. And yeah, I'm not gonna say that I had like an awful experience doing it. It's just that there were quite a few people genuinely questioning whether it's worth doing, considering how long it takes. And I'm not gonna say that the fights were tedious, but this again was one of the more kind of like basic. I don't know if Kabam was aiming that, but it also at the same time felt extremely basic, because there wasn't like a single node that altered the fight. It was just, you're gonna be fighting Man-Thing now, and you're gonna be fighting Ebony Maw now, and that's fine if Kabam wants these fights to kind of like stay pure and basic. But in that case, I think Kabam shouldn't kind of necessarily include, Kushala, for instance, which is, a straightforward fight. Kushala is not a defender, is what I'm trying to say. If Kabam doesn't want to add the nodes there, then I don't think they should also add champions that we would basically never or hardly ever really fight on defense, and without them being significantly different. And lastly, obviously there are few kind of like fights to be wary of, and that's perfectly fine. So it is not a content that you can go in like completely blind. You know, obviously against Toad, you know, somebody that's poison immune, and then against Sinister, you basically need a robot, or your fight's a lot harder. Then against Havoc, you need that armor up, which again makes total sense. Bishop, you ideally want an Incinerate immune champion, and Domino, you want somebody whose ability accuracy cannot be reduced. So all of those things, you know, still add a level of kind of like thought required. But I'm just very confused by the content, I guess, is what it is. And don't get me wrong, I am happy Kabam added. I always like when Kabam brings in new things, different types of, you know, quests, and this isn't me trying to, you know, have a go at Kabam. It's more so me trying to share my feedback. Hopefully, you know, you guys can chip in the comment section as well. So when this time comes around the next time, when this thing comes around the next time, you know, we get better player experience, kind of similar to AW Showcase, because if you guys don't remember, I think the first AW Showcase got received extremely poorly, and then the second one was, you know, better, but still had its issues, and then by the third one, I think that was perfectly fine. And whenever Kabam does something new, they often do need, you know, help kind of like finding it doing it. I think in this case, the biggest question that I have is, or what I think is that they need help finding purpose for this. It feels like this quest is many things at the same time, and it's not doing anything really well. It's not really like a major Everest type of content at all, because it's not hard or long enough. It is not like a short, fun, interesting fight type of thing either, because the fights have no nodes, they're extremely basic, and all the fights, you know, are long. And yeah, the question is like, what is Kabam trying to do with this? And they need to kind of like make it more clear, because at the moment, you know, an hour for each of these for very little rewards and fairly straightforward basic fights. Like, to put it again in a way, I was doing a stream and I was barely paying attention to the fights themselves. I was just, you know, having a laugh with my friends as I was going through it. And that's not to say that I think I'm particularly skilled. It's just that these fights were effectively long arena fights. So let me know what you guys think, and what was your experience if you have these already, and if you haven't, let me know if you plan on doing them. It's kind of funny. I initially prepared some guide video thumbnails, but I don't think you need guides for science and tech quest. Not really anyways. So yeah, let me know your thoughts, and I'm gonna catch you guys soon. Bye bye. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about